Hello everyone, I hope everyone's doing good on this sunny Friday. It is warm outside, sun's shining, everyone's happy, birds are chirping. I'm up here in the attic in front of my beautiful reference speakers with a glass of refreshing water because sometimes my throat gets very hoarse in these videos, if you've probably noticed in the past. And I'm ready to listen to an album that has been recommended to me by a friend. So I'm not exactly sure what I'm in for with this album, but it's been recommended to me by a friend who said that it's a really, really fantastic work. And the name of the album is one you guys might know pretty well. It's What Burns Never Returns by Don Caballero. So this album, I know this band is a math rock band, and that's about the extent of it, but I know that they're a math rock band. I've been told by my friend that the closest comparison for them is probably Slint, of all bands. Now, I have a strange relationship with Slint. I haven't listened to Spiderland for, I think, years. In full, I haven't listened to Spiderland for years at this point. And I remember, I like the album. I don't love it. I never did love it. I didn't like the vocals on it. So I told my friend this, and my friend was like, oh, well, there's a band that's like Slint, but like their most famous albums don't have vocals, and it's Don Cab. So I thought, okay, this would be a perfect chance for me to do another reaction video on this channel. So yes, we're listening to What Burns Never Returns by Don Caballero. I'm just going to say Don Cab because I think that's how people nickname them. Very popular math rock band, very popular in a lot of the indie scenes, along with like the Cap and Jazzes and the American footballs. I don't really know how this compares in style to anything that Slint's ever done or American football's ever done, except that I know there's no vocals, which success, because vocals can be very hit or miss for me. But yeah, I'm really excited to listen to this. I'm ready to go and excited to have my mind blown, which, if this is as good as my friend says it is, I think that's going to happen. So in the interests of keeping preamble at a minimum, which has been a problem with these videos, I often talk for like 10 minutes before I get into it. I have the album up here. I love the album cover. Now, before I knew what this album was called, I'd seen the album cover around, and I was always like, that is a really amazing album cover. And I still think that. I love how eerie it is. It looks like, you know those liminal space photos that you can sometimes see on the internet of these sort of creepy, otherworldly landscapes that, like, where you can't sort of identify a place in time where these things are. I think that album cover is really, really similar. I don't know what's producing that string of lights there. It looks like it could be like an apartment block or something, but I have no idea. And then you've got the house below with that eerie green hue. It's like a better version of the American football album cover, if you ask me. So love that album cover. So that really bodes well for the rest of the album. So we have an 8-track album here, some longer tracks here, which is pretty interesting. So we're starting with the longest track on the album by a pretty decent margin, Don Caballero 3. It's almost 10 minutes long, so 9 minutes 42 long. So a pretty epic length track here. We've been dealing with some pretty long songs here on this channel recently. I don't want to really, cast judgment on anything before I listen to it because I don't really know how this compares to other math rock bands, especially their contemporaries. This was released in '98, which I think was the year that American football released their first album. So it will be interesting to see how they compare. And yeah, with that being said, let's go for it. This is track 1, Don Caballero 3. Get some Spanish practice in here too. Volume might be a problem. Oh. It's a drum loop. Oh. Yeah, I'll turn up the volume a bit. Oh, time signatures. Yeah, 5/4, okay. Yeah, okay. It's got thickets of guitars.
Wow, polyrhythms galore already. I mean, this is math rock, so should be expected. I can't even quantize that. I have no idea what it is. Yeah, so we have, of course, an amazing drummer here. I don't think that has to be said. It's hard to sort of move along to it because I don't know what's happening. Yeah. Don Cab fans are going to hate me, but I think I've accidentally put on the Don Caballero Shreds video. Ooh. Whoa, okay, that's more like it. Oh, I like that. I like that. I like the 4/4. I'm a basic bitch. 4/4 is my spirit animal. Yeah, I love that. And we change fields completely. Jesus Christ, okay. So already we've shifted in between about, I think, I'll make out like 5 completely different rhythmic feels so far. So obviously insane musicianship, especially from the drummer. Like from the perspective of a drummer myself, like that would be so hard to do just on the fly. Like that, like as a drummer, you have to keep that internal pulse steady the whole time. But in this, the pulse is changing like that on a dime. And it's not even like we're just doing a half time to full time or double time sort of thing. We're changing the rhythmic feel completely like every minute or so. So obviously the musicianship of that is just off the wall, completely off the wall. That last bit before this, I think that really locked into a groove. That was spicy and fiery and really peppy. I liked that. The guitar stayed consistent, but the drums and we've changed again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Got that beat force sort of pulse though. Oh, okay. Hard to work out what's happening melodically there. But I just get the sense that that's not the focus, which I'll talk about after. Oh, double kick. Wow. I thought it was going to be a beat drop, a bar, but a beat before. Wow, polyrhythms, okay. Because why not? Amazing snare work too. Okay, so what to talk about there? A couple of things. First of all, if I was a drummer and I had to play that live, I'd probably jump off a bridge before the concert. Second of all, I get the sense that what I will say is that I think that's the sort of song that isn't gonna fully sink into you, like is gonna sort of fly over your head a little bit. until you listen to it like again and again in the future, and especially probably a full album context without breaks. As it stands, again, so much going on there, especially rhythmically, so much going on there, that it's sort of hard to comprehend. It's hard to get my baby brain to comprehend all of that on one listen. So that was musically a crazy track. Like, you can't, whether you're a math rock hater, math rock lover, you can't deny that the level of musicianship from all the players, so not just like, you want to go the drummer obviously, but from all the players, the guitarist, the bassist, that was a truly insane feat of musicianship. We have a bunch of players who are clearly at the tops of their games, like very, very clearly at the very tops of their like at their musical apex. And I don't know if this is Don Cab's first album or not, but if it is, or even if it's one of their early albums, it's honestly insane that they're at sort of that level of expression and musicianship that early in their career. So I found that super impressive. One interesting thing I think to note about that, and I don't know if this is a common sentiment with sort of Don Cab discourse, but it's very clear that, to me at least, I found, especially with that track, like, the drums were the lead instrument there. So, I mean, melodically, like, there were a few interesting things you could talk about there. Like, I think that end section with the sort of slide guitar-esque glissandos between these sort of lonely and altogether very pleasant notes, like the sort of thing, of course, while there's a polyrhythm going on with the drums. I think that's a very interesting melodic motif. I think that worked pretty well, even if it wasn't particularly catchy or anything. I think that worked pretty well, especially with the dynamic and cool push and pull that established with the drums. I think that was a cool melodic moment. There was some parts earlier on too. I mean, I loved the very beginning, in terms of the guitar work, where it was like these really dense thickets of guitar and bass that sort of coalesced together. Even without drums, especially at the beginning there, I thought that was really interesting and really, really cool. But that wasn't really melodically. That was more in terms of the textures and the timbres created. And as far as that went, that was pretty ace. But otherwise, I mean, I don't think I've heard, even in other math rock bands, I've heard like battles, like a bit of cap and jazz, like obviously American Football. I guess you can call Mars Volta as well, some of their earlier stuff. Very nigh on math rock. Even with that sort of thing, I don't think I would ever conceivably say that the drums were like intended to be one of, if not the sole focuses of the music. Like, if you look at, say, American Football is a good example, even though they're not my favourite math rock band by a long shot. I feel like the focus in that music is on the aching, lonely and pretty melodies that Mike Kinsella sings and that the guitarist lays down. I think the drums are there to accent those sort of melodic and harmonic features of the song. Not here. I mean, with Don Cab, I feel like that was essentially like a 9-minute long drum solo with really, and I don't mean this in a demeaning way, a 9-minute long drum solo with the rest of the band supporting him or her, whoever the drummer is, which I find to be a really interesting feature because, again, you don't hear that much in contemporary music. You rarely sort of get the rhythmic aspect, not only like one of the main elements, but the forefront of the music. And honestly, I think the drums carried that track with all the insane rhythmic feels and changes they went through. I mean, we had 5/4 at the beginning, then we shifted into some 4/4. There was that really cool, my favourite bit of the track, was that part at around, I think, 3 or 4 minutes long, where we finally went into like this solid, propulsive 4/4 feel. While there's some cool peppy guitar work going on, I thought that was really fantastic. And it was a real jolt of energy in the track, which was fantastic and much needed at that point. I think that region right there was pretty great. But Yeah, for me, the drums were the most expressive part of that track. The amount of just unique rhythms and feels they went through was like just like mind expanding, truly, truly mind expanding. And I think it's worth listening to that, if only for that. I mean, obviously there are other great features of the track and other reasons to listen to it, but that was honestly worth listening to, even if just for that. So I thought that was pretty impeccable. In terms of that. Otherwise, that isn't the sort of track like I feel like I just put on though, every day. Like if I was just saying, oh, I'm gonna listen to, even if I said, oh, I'm gonna listen to some math rock. I mean, this might change, but even if I say, oh, I'm in the mood to listen to some math rock today, I'd probably put on something like Racing by Battles, or obviously like Nevermind or Stay Home or something. That was very, very heady and intellectual. And again, I don't mean these things as demeaning terms necessarily, but that was very heady and very intellectual and very, mind altering and mind expanding. It's not, that wasn't a sit back and, let the music sort of just pass over you like that. You have to be a very involved listener, I think, with that. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think what that track shot for, it most definitely achieved. And honestly, for the most part, as an active listener and as a music nerd, I think that was super impressive. So yeah, that's that for the first track for me. So we're going to move on to some shorter tracks. So the rest of that long track at the beginning, maybe that was meant to be, like the Adam Hart Mother suite of the album, where it's like, this is sort of the intellectual heady mission statement, and then we'll get back to some different stuff after. Who knows? Track 2 is In the Absence of Strong Evi. My thing cuts off at Evi, so In the Absence of Strong Evidence, I'm guessing. 4 minutes 35 long, so less than half the length of the first track. And I don't really have much else commentary to deliver. Let's just shoot for it. I'm really interested to see where this album goes from here. Okay. Oh, that's very melodic. Oh, I like that. First time I've been able to just identify that as just a simple minor key thing. Oh, I like that. Wow. So I go on a whole spiel about the drums being the lead instrument, and then in the next track I feel like the guitars are carrying it. Never trust anything I say, I think, is the moral of the story. I like that. Like more like a post-hardcore track or something. I hear like Fugazi and At the Drive-In all over this. Much more traditionally, almost like, dare I say, Midwest emo. 6/4 here. Wow, yeah, complete change. But it's yeah. Dare I say, I almost sometimes, like in that case, I think, like having drastic changes in rhythmic fills is fine. However, sometimes I feel like, having incongruous changes like that works in small doses, but in large doses it can be a bit just confusing and disruptive for me. So that's all I say for now. I'll have more complete thoughts at the end of the track. We're leading into the next track there. So thoughts on that track? In the absence of something, evidence, whatever. Oh, in the absence of strong evidence to something, probably to the contrary. I liked it. No, I liked it. Don't misread my my body language and demeanor. I did like that. I liked the beginning more. That sort of sort of thing that started at the beginning. I think that was a really cool and propulsive little line there from the guitars and bass. I like how the drums interacted with that in the beginning, and there are moments on these two tracks so far where the drums and guitar play off each other that I think are really fantastic, and provide these really interesting highlights to the album as it stands. So I very much enjoyed that. I very much enjoyed the first minute of that. The last 3 minutes or so, I can almost... here's the problem with changing up so much. I mean, I want to sort of disperse little thoughts about this sort of style as the album goes on. But I would just say after this track, because I think I have a feeling this is the sort of the album where most of the tracks are going to do the same, similar, maybe not the same thing, but are going to fit into a similar sort of mold as opposed to like Sweet Trip or Perfect Circle or other bands I've listened to in the past. I think what it, like, changing up so much is great. It needs, however, more listens and more, not only listens, but like active, involved listens to really instill itself in your mind. Because after that track, I can remember what happened in the first 3 minutes, and what's happened in the last 3 minutes. I don't know if it's my bad memory. Maybe I have early onset dementia or something. I'll listen to a Caretaker album next. But for me, like, that last 3 minutes sort of has disappeared from my head already. So I remember almost nothing that track's done in the last 3 minutes. Again, I remember that really effective and cool beginning, that propulsive thing at the beginning, but I remember almost nothing that happened in the rest of the track. Now, that obviously means it wasn't bad. That was because if it was really poor, then that would stick in my head. If it's really amazing, that also sticks in my head. But anything in between that can often sometimes just disappear out of my head, especially when you get these like different things in short, sharp succession. it makes any one of them harder to sort of remember and deliver commentary on. So I wish I could deliver commentary on a lot of what the rest of that track did, but unfortunately I cannot. So I did enjoy that. I don't want to say I wish it changed up less, because I don't know if that's true. I'm gonna have to listen to more tracks, I think, before I can, have full, lucid and clear thoughts on a lot of what each individual track did, if that makes sense. So I'm sorry about that, but might have to move on to the next track. The next track is called Delivering the Groceries at 138 beats per minute, which is the most Mathox track title I've ever heard. 5 minutes 49 long, so it's a little bit longer than the previous track, but still a pretty manageable length. Are we going to get the same sort of thing? I think we are. But who knows? We'll see. Let's go. Whoa! Okay, we got doom metal in the house. Whoa! Whoa! Did not expect that. Did not expect that. And we're changing 3, 2, 1. Oh no! We got the strong bass, which is interesting. 682, which is quite unusual for a sort of post-hardcore thing too. Wow, they're really committing to this. Loves using the bell of his ride cymbal, which is pretty cool. Oh yeah, I like it. I like the bass work in this section. And we're getting some non-chordal guitar work, which is cool. We've changed the feel completely, but what I will say is that the change in rhythms this time has been much more organic than the previous track, which I appreciate. I know we're back into it. Whoa!
I love the cheers. I love that. I love how you can hear the cheers of the band in the background, just like grooving out to that drum solo. It shows that this is being recorded live too. That old track, which is doubly impressive. That was really fun. Sound like someone scraping a coin or something down there. Et voila. Voila. Well, there you have it, delivering the groceries at, what was it, 138 beats per minute, I think it was. That was cool. I found that really fun. It broke the mold of the first 3 tracks. First of all, by like committing to a rhythmic feel for not all of the track, but the majority of the track. It sort of sticks up that like that 6/8 feel for the vast majority of the runtime, and I found that quite enjoyable. I found that quite pleasant to listen to because it sort of gave a nice solid foundation for the rest of the song. In addition to, I think there was some other interesting new stuff going on in the other parts of the band. So in the guitar and the drums, first of all, we have chordal guitar work, which we haven't heard to a significant extent in the previous tracks, but we heard some very heavily distorted guitar work, especially in the first half or so, that really reminded me of so that felt pure in the like post-hardcore playbook to me. So, you know, in the style of like Fugazi, especially early Fugazi. That could have been an early Fugazi track at points. So I think that little callback was nice. Obviously, they've been listening to a bunch of, you know, at the drive-in and stuff, because you can clearly hear influences of that sort of style on that track. So it's interesting to hear callbacks to those things. Of course, drum work is fantastic. I loved the highlight of that track was that little drum solo that the drummer took, even if it was only 4 bars or 8 bars or whatever it was. I found that really fun, and I love just hearing the enthusiasm of the band in the background. And you know, I mean, the drummer doesn't need a showcase of how amazing he is. Like, he doesn't need to prove it any more than he's doing during the track proper. But I think that just doubly shows how he can really lay down a fun, energetic beat when he wants to. So I found that little bit of the track fun. Another really notable part of that was, I think it was in the like third quarter of the track, where suddenly we just got this huge wall of sound and the thing transitioned to like a brutal prog track, almost, which is crazy. Like, we got these huge walls of drums and distorted guitars and bass work, and there was almost no melody to it at all. It was just pure, it was an assault of noise, and I found that actually quite cathartic and cool. And that's where, you know, brutal prog influences come in. That's also where maybe like even shoegaze, dare I say, and stuff comes into that. But whatever you want to say about that, I think that was really cool, and I liked how the track didn't sort of rescind back into the math rock / post rock, not post rock, well maybe post rock, but not really post rock, Midwest emo playbook in the last 3 seconds to a minute.
when we finally got some sparkling light upper register guitar work and those really interesting, if eerie, slides up and down the neck to end the track out. So the way that track progressed was pretty fun and enjoyable. I wouldn't say though that there was anything like particularly mind-blowing. Like there wasn't a single, maybe apart from the drum solo, there wasn't a single moment in that like, whoa, like, you know, really, really blew me away. I think that's probably in part due to the fact there's no vocalist and there are no clear melodic lines. But you know, what can you do? I didn't expect to have that. Honestly, coming into a math rock album, I shouldn't expect to have that coming into a math rock album. So I'm judging this, you know, like in terms of how much I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a fair bit. In terms of what it's setting out to do as a math rock song, I think, like, what more could you want, really? Again, I'm trying to sort of drip feed my overarching commentary just on this style of music and how I appreciate music across the length of the track list, because I don't want to dump it all on you here or I have nothing to say just about the album as a whole. So I will try and drip feed a lot of that and then, you know, finish it off at the end. But suffice it to say, this style of music is often at odds with what I generally look for and appreciate in music. And I'm going to leave that as a cliffhanger for you going forward, because we're going to go into the next track, which is Slice Where You Live Like Pie. Obviously, there's no point deciphering math rock track titles because they mean nothing. Yeah. 5 minutes, 9 seconds, so a bit shorter than the previous track, pretty reasonable length. And let's hit it. Time for another 5-minute drum solo, boys. What's that? Is that like a pot? Oh, okay. Ah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Are these guys still together? Is it possible to see them live? Because this has been killed live. Laid back.
I'm sorry that I'm sorry that I'm so silent, but it's it takes a while to get really your head around every individual thing it does, and then by the time it's done that, you've moved on. Like the track. Oh yeah, I haven't moved on, but the track has moved on, which is crazy. I love this break beat thing. Oh, double kick, it's crazy. Yeah, so I mean, what do you even say about that, right? I mean, like, there's only so many different ways to say fucking mental, like batshit insane drummer, mental amazing guitar skills, and clean lucid production. There's only so many ways you can say that. Like, I could say pretty much after all these tracks, oh, I loved the part where it went into X rhythmic feel. Or I loved that. I loved the part where the guitar suddenly put all these like layers of distortion on what he was playing. You could say that about every track, and it would be valid for every track. So I mean, what do you say about that? So that was track. What's it called? Slice Where You Live Like Pie. I mean, unique to that track, I guess, I loved that sort of breakbeat, which I talked about, that sort of like thing, which made heavy use of snare, especially in the second half of the track. That was a really cool little drum groove there that was going on, and I really appreciate that. Great to sort of dance along to. I feel like this sort of thing you need to be like standing up and moving around, but I'm on a chair right now, so sort of hard to do. But yeah, I mean, what can you say? I think that, of course, the musicianship is insane, but it's tough. It's tough. I really want to like love this. I really want to give my whole heart to it, but again, I said I'm going to drip feed little things about me. One of the things about me is that I mean, if you don't know this about me, look, everyone has different tastes, right? Everyone has different internal biases about what they look for music. Even if you don't think you do, everybody has it. Like, everybody has those unfortunate biases that they can't counter. That's okay. That's a part of, being a critical thinking human that has their own tastes and opinions. I personally, in music, a lot look for, the first thing is I think I look for, like, a single interesting motif to run through a song. Like, often I look for that one sort of melody, that one really interesting harmony, or that one, like, that one interesting repeated rhythmic pattern that goes on for a bit. Often that's what I look for in music, personally. I like in songs things that are not necessarily easy to latch onto, but things that you can latch onto and that stay consistent. And that are really interesting. And that's why I sort of, like, with my math rock taste, I'll be honest, and I'll go into this a bit later, my favourite math rock band is Battles. Definitely. The reason Battles is my favourite math rock band is because, in my opinion, they're the most melodic and catchy math rock band. Like, of course, they have this crazy time signature stuff and these insane rhythms. But with Battles, there's almost always like a really cool melody or sort of hook coming over the top, whether it's the falsetto vocals in Racing, or the really cool feature on Ice Cream, or the da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na thing on Tonto. There's always that one thing that sort of means you can latch onto a track. There's always that one little element that you can latch onto in a track, rather. And there's always that one little element that
distinguishes each track from the next. Like, Battle is one band you can't say that every track sounds the same. Like, because everything has a really unique and interesting hook to it. Honestly, with these 4 songs, like, there are sort of there are things you can talk about, obviously, that are different between the tracks, but in my opinion, you can only talk about it in really broad strokes. Like, I can say, oh, that track sort of, you know, was a little bit more energetic than the past tracks. So I can say the first track, oh, that was more sort of like fluid and shifting than the other tracks. But those are all really broad strokes to paint songs in. So that's why I sort of have trouble with not only really investing myself in this album, but also having like unique commentary, you know, between the different tracks. So there are a few other little nuances to that argument that I'll bring up over the remaining tracks. I mean, who knows, the remaining tracks, we could be going into a hyperpop song next. So I think if there's anything I learned with the past Perfect Circle album that I listened to, never sort of judge an album before it's over. But yeah, I think realistically, like, I think it'll be similar to this, but you will see. So yeah, I'll drip feed more of my my thoughts and the way I listen to music as time goes on. So track 5 is called Room Temperature Suite, 5 minutes 31. More math rock goodness. Let's just hear it. Let's go. Drum rhythm at the start. Nice chord change there. Yeah, one thing I forgot to mention, the commentary of the past track, double kicks for days. Double kicks for fucking days. One thing that is interesting about this band is that, like, we've heard some unconventional time signatures so far. Like, I've heard some 7/4 and some 5/4 in places, but actually they stick to a lot of 4/4 and 6/4, which is really interesting. Like, the rhythmic complexity in this lies in how much it changes, and some of the odd rhythmic subdivisions within that 4/4, 6/4. But at the end of the day, it comes back to a really simple and straightforward feel, no matter how much that changes up. So I think that's just something interesting to know. That definitely differentiates them from a lot of other math rock bands.
Yeah. Yeah, it was alright. Is that what he said? Is that alright? Is that alright? Yeah, that was alright. That was an alright track indeed. So that was Room Temperature Sweet. That was fun. That had more of just a palpable sense of sort of lightness and fun that a lot of the previous tracks don't have and feel a bit more serious and heady. But yeah, that felt a very lighthearted and fun track. Especially with a lot of that peppy guitar work, again in the upper register. Some of the cool drum rhythms in there kept it quite simple at the beginning, which I liked, but obviously, we changed it up ad infinitum throughout the rest of the songs, so you can never rest on your laurels with this band. That's one thing you've got to work out. What else is there to talk about? Yeah, I liked the drum rhythm at the beginning. I liked the bass work. This is the first time the bass work has actually stuck out to me on one of these songs, so I think there's something to be said for that, but I liked the bass work, especially at the end there. I thought it was really effective. So I thought overall that was one of the more fun tracks, but I can't say I really enjoyed it any more or any less than any of the other tracks on the album. Look, in case you didn't know, here's one thing to know if we're going on about my personal biases. Again, in terms of music, here's another thing to know about me. I love repetition. Like, my favourite Talking Heads album is Remain in Light because everything is repeated over and over. My favourite blues musician is R.L. Burnside. My favourite jazz musician is two-way tie between Miles Davis and The Necks, both of whom use repetition like to an almost absurd extent, especially The Necks. My favourite techno artist is Basic Channel. I think if you know any of those names, you should get an idea. I love repetition. I love the way to make a track like instantly iconic a lot of times for me. Maybe not like top tier, but to put it like as one of my favourite tracks, have one good idea and just repeat it over and over and over and over. Because in my opinion, repetition legitimizes, and having a decent idea repeated for 100 bars is better than having an amazing idea played for 5 bars. That's just my opinion. That's just my personal intrinsic biases when it comes to listening to music. So that's a reason probably why a lot of this flies over my head. Like if you wanted to design an album that's like the opposite of what I normally go for, I think you have this album. So that's clouding my judgment a lot. So I respect the fact that this is an objectively pretty great album, but it's also raising interesting questions for me about the way, like what I look for in music. Because this is objectively an amazing album, but it raises questions about like, why am I not really getting as much out of this as I possibly could? Now, this could be, again, one of those cases where this gets so much better for me on further listens. It very well could be, especially once different just aspects of each track, go in my mind and I get enough knowledge to differentiate them. But until that point, it's sort of hard to fully love this album, if that makes sense. But we're going to soldier on, nevertheless, and hope something blows me away. We're going to go to track 6, which is The World in Perforated Lines. Now, this is short, 3 minutes 52, so hopefully not much room to, like, change things every 4 bars. Yep. Let's go. I want to hear it. Could be a punkier track, or heavier. Oh, pretty. They couldn't do that, could they? I liked that. But I liked that. I loved that beginning. I wanted a song like that. Far out. See, this is why I can't get haircuts
because we're in a fucking lockdown. So this is what my hair looks like. I look like fucking Ronald McDonald clown ass hair. Stupid ass. Get out. That's so stupid. I look like a Dorito. Stupid Dorito head. Fuck me. I do want to say, my friend was completely wrong. This is nothing like Slint, in my opinion. This is nothing like Slint. Slint is much more sparse and like Alien. Slint is much more sparse than Alien. This is much more strangely earthy, I'd say. Which, I mean, that isn't a better or worse thing. That's just different and much different to how this was described to me. So, just something to point out. I don't know what's wrong with it. Because these moments that should be so cathartic just don't ring that way for me. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I like that little hi-hat thing here. Yeah, I don't know, it's just such a me problem because these moments like the end there that should be so cathartic and objectively are so cathartic, they just don't ring it, like they don't come across like that to me. And I just have no idea why. I don't know what the problem is. I genuinely don't know what the problem is because, I mean, that was, no different to something that, say, Swans might do in a song, but whereas in Swans I'd like headbang with this, I don't know, maybe it's the way it's presented or something, or the way the track builds up to it, but I just don't get that. I just don't see it. I think in this song, of this album, really in general, because it changes so much and because it does so many things, I feel like it's hard for songs to have like a real definite sort of build and climax and come down and like denouement to them. Which, I mean, I guess you don't objectively need, but it's nice, and I like that as a thing. But because like that end there wasn't really built up to. Like, I love songs that have this not necessarily linear, but a pretty consistent a build to them. So those moments feel like real payoff moments. But in this, I don't really get that for some reason, and Again, we're talking me problems. Like, we're not talking Don Cab problems. We're talking purely me problems. But and I think that's something I didn't realize is that I look for, like if we get these moments of catharsis, they need like a build to them, and I just didn't feel that had it. So, yeah. I mean, I guess that track was more
simple. I don't even know. Like, what can you say about that track that's really different, like really, really different to the others? I guess you can say it was a bit more simple in composition. I do want to deliver a love letter to that first 10 seconds. I wish that was the whole track, because just that one little passage, that guitar line at the beginning, that clean guitar line was wistful. It was beautiful. It was angelic and really melancholy in the best possible way. And excuse me, I almost wish the whole track was just to build off of that. Like, I liked that first 5 seconds more than the rest of the song, if I'm perfectly honest. That was really, really beautiful, and they had something and they just ripped it away from me. Fuck me. Yeah, I mean, it was a good track. It's just the same sort of thing, and I'm getting frustrated more at myself, I think, than this album, because I just don't know what I'm not seeing in this. Track 7 is called From the Desk of Elsewhere Go. 7 minutes 51. This is a long one, so I feel like we're going to get a lot of changes. Who knows? Like, would it kill them to put a synth in there, or like a trumpet or something? I don't even know. Let's just go. Fuck me. Little bass thing there where it has this slight uneasy lurch to it. I like that. Hi-hat work that's happening here. I like the close to open sort of thing. I think that's quite clever.
I will say, I will admit. Whoa. Okay, we're about to go into something. I will say they use dynamics better, especially over the course of the album, more than I gave them credit for at the beginning. I think there are tangible moments of dynamic contrast within these songs, which I quite like. That does break it up a little bit, which I also quite like. I like that sort of come down there to that sparse guitar work. I think they really do know how to use dynamics in this band. I just wish a lot of it was more in a context of, like a build up to something, Oh well, what can you do? That's it. 3, 4, and 4, 4 polygons. Not anymore, we don't. Been there with like a crowd rock sort of really like and I'll take what I can get. Yeah, so while we're appreciating little things about this album, I think, the bass work towards the end there was pretty stellar. I think the bassist so far is actually a really productive member of the band in this. I like how he doesn't, obviously it's the role of the guitars and the drums, especially the drums in this, to provide the crazy rhythmic things. So the bassist, in contrast, seems to stick to the background a lot in this album and, just do what the song needs. And he only comes to the forefront when it's time for him to really drive forward. I'm gendering him, I'm sorry, if him or her. What I'm trying to say is that there are points at which the bassist really takes the reins of the song. And we got that in one of the earlier tracks, I forgot, which honestly they sort of blended into one after a while. But yeah, we got that in one of the earlier tracks, and we get this in that really cool, just simple one note, eighth note, which was really great in driving the song forward at that point. Granted, I wish the drums had done something different at that point. I wish they sort of left the half-time feel and went into a propulsive full-time, maybe with a closed hi-hat or something, but, coulda, shoulda, woulda, but I sort of think the drums could have complemented that better, but I liked what the bassist was laying down there towards the end there. In terms of, the first half of the track, and more Don Cab stuff, more sort of jangly guitar lines and angular parts and weird polyrhythms and crazy drum fills. It's what I've come to expect in pretty much every track so far. And again, this is not the sort of band I think that is ideal for initial listen reactions, especially if you're not a massive math rock fan, because if you interviewed me a month down the track and said, okay, now what do you think about this album? At that point, I'd probably be able to say, oh, well, this track did this and this track did that. But it's just at this point, I can't really do that because there are so many parts that it's hard to keep track. I will say I'm glad the tracks aren't longer. While we're appreciating little things, I'm glad the tracks aren't longer. And I am very glad that the album as a whole isn't that long because we're coming up to the final track there, which is honestly the brevity of this is a blessing. And I don't really, again, mean that in a demeaning way. I just say that a lot of math rock bands and similar bands like to dole out really long albums, so I appreciate the brevity here. One thing I haven't mentioned is the production of this album. It's good. It's very lo-fi, so if you ever come into this album for sort of the polished sort of sheen that a band like Battles or American Football has, you're not going to find it. It's extremely lo-fi album. All the instruments, especially the drums, have a sort of lo-fi crunch to them, which is, it is what it is. They have natural reverb. It sounds like it's just being recorded in a loft somewhere, and again, that is what it is. I mean, you always sort of are left wanting, maybe if the drums were a little bit punchier in sound, then maybe it'd come across as more sort of in your face and cool, or maybe if the guitars are produced in a different way, it would be more easy to pick out the individual elements and the little melodies being laid down. But, what can you do? Again, coulda, shoulda, woulda. The production isn't egregious or anything, so it gets past. But yeah, so we're coming up to the last track on the album, so it's June is finally here. After this track, assuming it doesn't do anything too differently, I have a long sort of spiel in my head going, so I would deliver my full, unadulterated, hopefully unedited thoughts on this album and maybe math rock in general. So this is track 8, last track to close out the album. June is finally here. The end of the album's finally here. Fuck me. That's quite fitting. Quite actually sparse and nice. I actually don't mind this. Yeah, fake beat. Thinking, how can I get some dead presidents? So cause I'm paid in full. It's getting so dark. I'm sorry. This is going to be the most grainy video you've ever seen.
last track is actually very good. It's very good. I should have kept going to that, just ride that out. That was lovely, that was gorgeous, that little bit. Okay. Children, friends, countrymen, Romans, lend me your ears. So I'm gonna tell you the reason why I don't think math rock, for the most part, is the genre for me. Now, everything I'm gonna say is actually pretty much discounting that last track, which is, I think, easily my favourite track on the album. Like, that last track did everything that I think the rest of the album didn't do for me. It was pretty, it was melodic, it was gorgeous. Some of the guitar work, I loved that little bit where it's like na 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 na, that like light and airy interlocking guitars at the end there was so nice. Like really, really gorgeous. That was a fantastic, gorgeous track. While a lot of what I'm going to say does not apply to that, I actually really, really enjoyed that, especially at the end there. Fantastic way to end off the album too. It felt like the fog on the album cover was finally clearing up and like we get some sunshine coming through. I thought that was really gorgeous. So take no heed of what I'm saying if you've come for opinions of that last track. I think that last track was, spoiler alert, easily the best on the album and nothing bad to say about it. So with that being said, for the most part, I think I've been dancing around a lot of the things that I look for in music before this point. For the most part, and again, nothing's absolute. Like, everything is... There's always a million caveats with anything you listen to in music for me. However, for the most part, what I look for in tracks is some sort of, like, emotional resonance or emotional wavelength that the track's operating from, rather. I think there are some exceptions to be made for, like, like vapid and purely sort of fun pop music. Or, like, music that's outwardly trying to sound, like, mechanical. Like, its whole thing is that it is devoid of emotion. Like, that's the thing it's actually going for, like, Basic Channel, or even some pop music, again, like, Can't Get You Out of My Head by Kylie Minogue. But for the most part, I try to find some emotional wavelength that I can connect with within myself to listen to when I'm listening to a track. Whether it's anger, whether it's sadness, whether it's happiness, whether it's a mix of emotions, like whether it's a complex sort of mix of like a million different convoluted feelings. That's what I look for. I look for emotion in tracks. I look for, in my favourite tracks especially, I look for emotion and I guess like heart. I don't know. I'm talking in these sort of vaguely, pseudo philosophical terms, but that's just what appeals to me most in music. Now, I feel like a lot of times the way that's best communicated is through repetition of a single motif. I feel like that really instills itself on me. As well as little things like I love minor keys because of the sort of storminess of them. I love simple chord progressions, X, Y, and Z. A lot of those things, in my opinion, are service to the emotion that tracks are going for. And that's a really sort of simple and boilerplate observations thing to look for in music. But I think when you are able to identify that, it's easier to realize why math rock is a bit of a problem child for you. For me, and of course there are exceptions, like obviously I mentioned Battles as a big exception. For me, the problem with math rock is like in the title, in the name, math rock. Like, I feel like a lot of math rock is going for, like, look how the sort of attitude. I don't like the attitude of math rock. The attitude of math rock seems to be a lot of times, look how complex we can make our music. Look how amazing we are at our instruments. Look how, like, much guitar wankery and drum wankery we can fit in a song. Again, that's a really crude and shallow way of defining it, but I feel like that's the attitude that a lot of math rock musicians and bands have. Now, I don't think this band is the worst offender. I think there are many, many worse offenders out there. Like, if you've heard, if you've heard Chon, like a band like Chon or a band like Polyphia, that's like the most, for me, that sort of music is completely soulless. Like, that is as soulless for me as the worst pop music, because I feel like there's just nothing to latch onto. Like, there's nothing my soul can sort of grab onto in music like that, if that makes sense. Where it's just like, oh, look how many polyrhythms we can put on top of each other. Look how we can play in 27/16. In my opinion, this is also a very a crude opinion that I'm probably going to regret saying later. But in my opinion as well, just this is by the by. This particular opinion doesn't apply to this album. Like, most songs don't need to be out of 4/4 or 6/4, in my opinion. Sometimes it works really well. Sometimes bands can do it extremely well. But it always has to be a means to an end. And I don't like when bands just say, okay, we're going to challenge ourselves to write a song in 11/8 or write a song in, 17/16 just for the fun of it. I think that's the problem with one of my favourite bands, King Gizzard. I think that's the problem with what they've been doing a lot recently. I think when you start approaching music like a competition to see how much theory we can sort of put into music, that's when it becomes really soulless. I think music theory in general, should be always a means to the end and never an end in itself. And I guess that's partly applicable to this album, or also partly not. But I guess if we're talking about that, I just don't know what emotional resonance or wavelength most of those tracks, operative word most, I think the last track was really distinct and unique and different, but for the most part, I just don't know what to feel in those tracks. Like, I don't know what emotional resonance we're going for. And so then I go, okay, well, let's dance along to it. Like a Venetians, there are exceptions. The Venetian Snares album I listened to on this channel, that's a 9 out of 10 album. Like, that's a fan-fucking-tastic album for me. I don't think there's much, apart from one or two tracks, I don't think there's any emotional wavelength of those tracks, but the thing is, that didn't matter because I was just able to, like, move along to them and go absolutely spastic over them. So, which, you know what I mean. Like, that was sort of like pure 100% unadulterated catharsis, that album. And I think some albums or songs can just work either as pure vapid fun, or they can work as just pure 100% like anger and rage, like an outlet for energy or something. Or, take solace in going the other way and being completely minimalistic. But this album wasn't any of those things for me. Like, it was very complicated. There were a lot of changes, like a lot to my, in my opinion, even to the point of being excessive. There was a lot going on in the different parts of the instruments, a lot of polyrhythms. And despite giving me so much, I felt like the more it added, the less I got out of it. Which is this weird and sort of counterintuitive thing. For music, like, you'd think more is more, and sometimes more is more. Like, Venetian Snares proves that sometimes more can be more. But in this case, more, for me, was less. Like, I didn't really get much out of that album. And I think that's just, again, it's a less egregious form of that within math rock for me.
But I think that's one of the biggest problems with math rock is because they throw so much at the wall, but I feel like they throw it at the wall just for the sake of it, and they don't actually do it as a means to an end. Because like within that, let's go to a track like, say, just picking a track at random. Okay, delivering the gross. Actually, that's not good. Slice where you live like pie. That's a really good example. Like, I can't tell you anything that track made me feel. I can't tell you any interesting hooks or melodies within that track. I can tell you that the instrumental, the playing was brilliant, like off the wall, and I think that's where a lot of the value comes from this album for me, because as I said at the beginning, I feel like we get the drums as the lead instrument, which in this album, which is fantastic, and if you're a drummer, you can totally nerd out over what's happening here. But as a song, like as a cohesive song with a sort of an experience, an emotion, a feeling, a catharsis or something attached to it, I feel like it just didn't work on that level for me. Now, other people look for different things. I think if you were perhaps like really, I like music theory, I've learned music theory, but if you're hardcore into that, then maybe you might get more out of this album. I say again, music theory should be a means to an end. And I don't feel like the means here achieved that end. That's just my complete unadulterated opinion. And that isn't really a symptom of this album as much as it is possibly their influences and math rock as a whole. And I think the reason certain bands like Battles is a really good example, escape from that is because they do, have interesting melodies and interesting hooks. They have pretty moments, they have angry moments, and they have, I can tell you, like, even with some of the more obtuse stuff on their first album, Mirrored, which is like almost a perfect album for me, I feel like I can tell what they're going for. They're going for cheeky. They're going for really cheeky and playful. But I wouldn't call this album particularly cheeky or playful. I honestly don't know how to characterize it at all. I also don't think the album cover matches either. I think the album cover is infinitely more atmospheric and cool than the album itself. But I don't know, if you asked me to characterize this album in one word, it'd be like technical. And admittedly, it isn't nearly as egregious as, again, Sean Polyphia or even like a Vector, like the metal band, which I listen to. Like, that is the problems I have with this album, but taken to their like logical extreme. But it just makes things difficult, and it makes it hard for me to fully appreciate what this album's doing. Now, again, 5 listens down the track, I might have a completely different opinion, but you're watching this channel for a first reaction, and that's my first reaction. I think this is an album that has a lot of ambition and a lot of technical skill behind it, but just doesn't quite go anywhere for me. And I'm sorry, that sounds more scathing than it is. I think this is probably a 5 or probably a 6 out of 10 album. I think I'd give this a 6 out of 10. I just think there's a lot of potential here that isn't quite fully realised. And at the same time, I also think this album is not for me. This album's just not for me at the end of the day. Like, hit me with 10 different rhythmic feels and crazy, modal stuff going on in the guitar, but sometimes at the end of the day, I just want, like, a really hyper simple track. Like, sometimes I just want, like, On the Road Again by Canned Heat or something where it's just one chord the whole time. What can you do? It's not Don Cab's problem, it's my problem. I mean, if I had to tell you, like, favourite tracks, I don't think I could give you an order. June Is Finally Here is my favourite track, though. I think that's a really emotional, cool track that sort of goes against all the problems I have with the rest of the album. But otherwise, in the absence of strong evidence to the contrary, is pretty good. I liked parts of From the Desk Where Elsewhere Go. I don't know. I think Don Caballero 3 is kind of neat too. I don't know. Overall, I guess I sort of anticipate. I mean, I don't think it's like the Slint. I have different problems with the Slint album than I do with this album. Most of them are vocal related, to be honest. But with this album, I think I probably actually like it a bit less than Spiderland. What can you do? Honestly, what can you do? Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please tell me in the comments why my opinion's wrong. Please tell me if you're a big Don Cab fan. If you'd like to explain your opinion on this album to me, why you love it, why you hate it, what I should listen for on my next listen, what I should listen to next. Please shoot all comments. I'll try and reply to most, if not all of them. I'll be liking all of them. And otherwise, if you enjoyed this, if you enjoyed what I had to say, please subscribe, please like, please tell your friends about these videos and, share them around and share the love. Because even if I'm not 100% sold on the album, I'm still really enjoying doing this. So, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Adios.